All right. Well, I really want to thank you, Tom and Marion, for bringing us a great discussion here. I think we all are really excited about this model and eager to see where it goes from here. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people in this audience maybe even think of some new angles on it. So thanks again for providing a great closing session to the NMC Symposium on New Media and Learning. This was a great crowning touch.
Thanks for letting us come and present.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, and now I'm going to invite Larry Johnson to come out, who's going to do kind of a closing recap message for today.
Thank you, Alan. Really great job, gents. I thought that was a fantastic session. It's been a fantastic day, actually. And one of the traditions of these symposia is that, as they unfold, I try to come up with some sort of reflections at the end, and so that's what I'm going to try and do right now for in about the next 8 or 10 minutes or so before we officially adjourn. We started this gathering just 2 days ago. We were line dancing under the stars to a blues artist who makes her living today playing live in Second Life and other virtual worlds. And Noma Falta has an incredible knack for weaving story and song in a way that both illuminates her life and our own at the same time. And through her art and her many rich experiences, I think we've got a good metaphor for what we've experienced in the time since we began this event Tuesday evening. And someone has got an open mic. I hear typing, and so if we might just double check. Make sure you don't have your mics open. Thank you. While we've touched on other dimensions of new media, the underlying content throughout the entire 2 days has been the notion of story, how story connects us, how story defines us. We began with Holly Witchy, who provided us a video of her just sitting and telling a story, the story of Apollo and Daphne, a tale that's been told and retold for thousands of years. But she found a way to make it her story, one that she was able to use to tell the story of her own life at a variety of different stages. She made it funny, too. I loved her reflections on who got the worst of the deal. Sure, Apollo had a broken heart, but Daphne, well, she turned into a tree. You can just kind of figure it out there. I just can see the expression on her face that she was telling the story. It just made the whole thing memorable for me, and that's the power of the oral tradition. Throughout the first day, we heard masters of that art give us insights into the nature of story, insights that came from film, from the narrative tradition, from classic poems and text, from the caves of Lascombe, and then even from flash novels and Five Card Nancy. And we were able to see that all of them in the right hands were vehicles for weaving rich and engaging, deeply personal, touching stories. I'll never forget how I felt upon hearing Tammy's story that Joe shared with us, a reading teacher whose brother was in jail and was so touched by the illiteracy that he found there that he wanted to teach his fellow inmates to read, but he had no tools to do it with, neither paper nor pencils. And she was struggling with her own feelings that kept her from actually helping him do something that she knew how to do really, really well. Her story was one of pain, then catharsis, and ultimately it was a story of love. Throughout all the sessions that we've seen, the oral tradition has been foregrounded by the presenters themselves. They've all woven their own parts of this 2-day tapestry. And it seems powerfully clear to me that the ideas and conversations that have surfaced over these days are going to outlive our shared experience. I know you've blogged and you've tweeted about you saw here. There's hundreds of photos on Flickr and beyond. You've added new names and new friends to the list of people that you admire. And I think it's pretty clear that the conversation started here will continue beyond today because we've had this shared experience in common. And that's the theme of this symposium, the compelling power of new media to connect us to one another and to extend our experiences beyond time and place. It's run throughout this conference like a thread in a tapestry, as I mentioned before. It's run through and has connected every one of us and every one of the sessions. From Joe's approach to story that deeply touches emotion and meaning, weaving communities together, to Cynthia's delightful and fanciful way of weaving a story that's completely immersive. It's a fantasy experience and a real-life grounded sort of story all at the same time. Made it fun. Tony Curtis shared his students' deeply personal explorations. Some of them were very, very, very compelling. Lou Rara wowed us with flash fiction. I hadn't really thought much about flash fiction, or how to distill the essence of a story into droplets of deep meaning. I'll never forget Hemingway's famous short story, For Sale, Baby Shoes, Never Worn. Rubin took us from Lascombe to the future in a breathtaking analysis of narrative forms, and in session after session, the presenters reinforced the idea that new media is not about the tools, but about the ways they link us together. Today we looked at games from both the theoretical, with Constance's 7 years of ethnographic study, to the practical as described by Brett Bixler, Penn State. Amy Gorman showed us the power of objects to both enrich and embody story, and how those stories have meaning just as they did for Holly at every stage of life. And then there was Craig Knapp, who showed us the future. And I don't think any of us will ever think about alternate reality the same way again. Another master storyteller whose vignettes pulled us in from the first moment and kept us on the edge of our seats throughout the whole session. And then the session that we've just attended with Tom and Marion, bringing history to life in 140 characters or less. It's the flash novel and Hemingway's 6-word story told in modern times. These remarkable storytellers have led us down the rich pathways of the last 2 days and an evening. But each of us were also weaving our own narratives continuously in our own conversations, our comments, our back channels, our questions, and our reflections. None of us created or experienced the story of the last 2 days by ourselves. We did it as a group. And it was as a group that we saw our many diverse individual impressions become the single shared experience. An experience that's, I think, affected each of us in different ways. But for me, it's one that's so much richer for having been built by all of us here. And so that's the true takeaway for me from this symposium. That new media can connect us to one another and enlarge our individual experiences in ways we can only begin to imagine. And that's where the true opportunity lies beyond this symposium. To realize that we've now reached a point where new media is so much a part of our lives. It's so natural. It's almost like air. And yet at the same time, this is not a universal experience. These same media and these same connections that we felt so palpably in the last 2 days are far too often lacking in the world of learning. And what's being lost by that choice? To me, it's powerfully clear that the simple answer is too much. I think our task has to be to employ the social power of new media in the service of our learning communities and to enrich these experiences by doing so, just as we do in our social lives, in our social communities. This conference, the second annual Symposium on New Media and Learning, was convened precisely because we see that task as so important. And we're going to do this conference again next year because we know it's going to continue to be important. We recognize the tools are going to change. The focuses that we look at, they're going to change as well. But whatever the tools are going to be, they simply support the experiences, the reflections, and the social connections that are at the heart of how we learn and at the heart of being who we are. Those things matter. They matter because they're reflections of all of us. And everyone here has contributed to this conference, making it so much more than it would have been otherwise. And so on behalf of everyone here, we thank all of you for your roles. Thanks are also due to the presenters and to all the people behind the scenes manning the help desks. John, you're a master. The folks who helped organize the sessions, Beth and Chris, who worked countless hours, Alan, who orchestrated the whole thing as a master conductor. Thanks to all the NMC staff who worked tirelessly to make this happen, and thanks to all of you again in the audience who brought so much by being here. I think we're all enriched by your contributions, and I'm humbled by what I've learned. It's been a fantastic 2 days. And now it's done. The 2010 NMC Symposium on New Media and Learning is now officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.